I've been using this M1 MacBook Air for about more than 100 days, which is just over 3 months, and I have to say, the M1 MacBook Air battery life is shockingly, insanely amazing. I mean, do you even know how much battery is in this M1 MacBook Air? Go on, take whatever random guess you wanna take, like 5000 mAh, 10,000 mAh, whatever. Just take a guess. Now, what if I tell you that at the end of this video, I will ask you this same question, but you will not care about the figures of the battery? Well, unless you're a tech head like me, but believe me, a normal person would not care because the battery life is actually amazing. So the one thing that every human has to take care of every day is to recharge their devices. Putting this MacBook to charge, it took around 50 minutes to go from 5% to 50% and 2 hours to charge from 5% to 100%. You know what else can you do in 2 hours? Watch almost a full movie. But if you can't wait for 2 hours, there are already some fast chargers available on apple.com. It's not like they don't provide a charger in the box, they do provide a 30-watt USB Type-C to C. There is also one thing about the charger that got my attention. So if you look closely on this plastic covering of the charger, it already had some scratches of level 6 and some deeper grooves or small marks. But only this covering alone has it. Every other side is in top-notch condition. I found this on the second day of usage and I think it's a quality control problem. But it's only a small thing, so I didn't mind it. I'm gonna go first with how I use and what battery life did I get, but I totally understand. I totally get it that everyone uses their computer in different ways, and that's why I also tested the battery in 2 more different ways, and not just how I use it. The first one is simply to use the M1 MacBook as lightly as possible, because it's not every day we use these machines for heavy lifting. Sometimes we use it for light work. And the second one is for extremely heavy work, to see what kind of battery backup it can get to users when put through heavy performing tasks. Let's start with my experience first. So my use case somewhere falls in between somewhat light to somewhat medium to heavy use. I mostly use it for typing scripts for my video, Spotify running in the background, using Safari, editing 4K videos and intros just like the one you saw in the beginning, some photo editing, and then watching some YouTube videos when I don't work. And that is how I mostly use it. So the battery life I get from this typical use case is mostly around 14 to 15 hours. Sometimes half hour more, depends on the use. But still, 15 hours of battery life, working on it, I didn't even have to think about the next time I have to charge it. It's that amazing. The most amount of battery drop that I noticed was mostly when I was editing the intro. It dropped exactly 63% just from editing the intro, but still managed to give me a total of 15 hours of use, which is still amazing to see. I mean, if you do a quick math, 100% minus 63%, which is 37%. And in that 37%, I typed for 6 hours straight, used Safari, Spotify is still running in the background, and I also managed to watch 3 hours of YouTube videos. I don't even have words to justify the shockingly insane battery life that I got from this M1 MacBook Air. It's not like every time we use these computers for the heavy stuff. So let's see how a light use affects the battery life of this M1 MacBook. So by the term light usage, I mean basically using the Mac for light work, like browsing the internet, checking mails, making thumbnails for videos, writing scripts about a product review just like this one, etc. The idea was simply to see how much hours of battery you can have with a light to medium usage. So with this type of use case, it gave me around 16 to 17 hours of usage, which is somewhat expected. And the funny thing is, it was still left with 11% of battery. I think if you add these 11% too, it's a well over 18 hours of battery. I also noticed that the major battery drop happened when I'm using softwares like Google Keep, Canva and Safari. But the least battery drop was found using softwares like Freeform and the apps that are native to macOS. The definition of extreme use of a computer is different for everyone. I mean, for a programmer who writes code and creates softwares is different than a graphic designer who creates visual art. Then for people like me who use these machines for editing videos using effects and animations to make those videos look visually appealing. The point is, it's different for everyone. So the most extreme that I could go with this M1 Mac is to edit a timeline with 4K videos, and on top of that using some effects, transitions and animations. I could go to the level 2 of the edit, but the 8 GB of RAM was already using swap memory, so I stopped. The battery life that I got from this type of usage was 5 to 6 hours almost, because 10% was still left. But if you don't count the 10%, I would say it's a 5 to 5.5 hours max. But still, 5 hours does sound pretty good when you're not around a power wall or on top of a mountain. I know most people, including me, usually use their MacBook connected, but I was kind of curious to know what kind of battery backup I would get if I use it like this. Now you know. Remember the question that I asked you at the start of this video? The answer is 4379 mAh. And this is the most accurate number I found multiple times on the internet. But the real question is, now that you know, do you really care about the figures of the battery? If you ask me, I would say I don't, because the battery life that I got from this M1 MacBook Air already exceeded my expectations, both from the personal use and from the light use case perspective. And for the extreme use case point of view, it still managed to give me 5 hours of battery, which is not that great, but who uses these machines to do the heavy stuff unplugged? I know I don't. So what are your thoughts about it? Comment what do you think about it. Alright, so that's everything for this video. Thanks for watching, and that's a wrap up.